Then keep the camera on, officer, because the truth is about to need a witness. Angela Brooks said it softly through the half-lowered window of her black SUV, her hands resting where Officer Travis Miller could see them, her voice calm enough to make the rain sound louder. The highway stretched empty behind her for nearly half a mile, a wet gray ribbon cutting through pine trees 12 miles outside the county line. Red and blue lights flashed across the slick asphalt, sliding over the hood of her vehicle, the guardrail, and the shallow puddles gathering near the shoulder. Travis Miller stood beside her door with one hand near his belt and the other holding her license, tilting it toward his flashlight, as if the plastic itself had offended him. He was a white patrol officer in a crisp dark uniform, his badge bright under the stormy sky, his body camera blinking on his chest. Angela was a black woman in her mid-40s, dressed in a charcoal coat over a simple blouse, her hair pulled back neatly, her face composed despite the cold air blowing into the car. To anyone passing by, she looked like a business traveler on her way to a federal meeting, maybe a lawyer, maybe an executive, maybe just another woman trying to get home before the weather got worse. Travis looked at the clean interior, the leather seats, the unopened bottle of water in the cup holder, the empty back seat, then back at her. His mouth curved into something that was almost a smile. A vehicle this clean usually means somebody is trying too hard, he said. Angela let the words settle without answering too quickly. She had learned long ago that silence could make careless people reveal more than pressure ever could. A semi-truck passed in the left lane, its tires hissing against the wet road, throwing a mist across the shoulder. In the side mirror, Angela watched Travis angle his body slightly away from the driver's side window. Not much, just enough to change what his body camera could see. She noticed the movement. She noticed everything. What was the reason for the stop, she asked. Travis glanced at the road behind them as if searching for an answer he had not needed until now. You drifted near the lane marker. I stayed within the lane. That is not how I saw it. His tone sharpened, slow and official, the kind of voice designed to end questions rather than answer them. Angela nodded once. Then I would like the stop documented clearly. He leaned closer, rain ticking softly against the brim of his cap. Ma'am, you do not tell me how to conduct a traffic stop. No, Angela said, eyes moving to the blinking camera. The law does. For the first time, Travis's expression changed. Not fear. Irritation. The kind that came when someone he expected to shrink stayed perfectly still. He handed the license back, but his fingers did not release it right away. Step out of the vehicle. Angela looked at him, then past him, toward the gas station across the road, where a small security camera sat under a faded awning, pointed directly at the shoulder. You want me outside in the rain? I want you to follow instructions. Angela took her license, placed it carefully in the center console, and opened the door with measured calm. The cold hit her first, then the smell of wet grass, diesel, and hot brakes. She stepped onto the shoulder, closing the door behind her without force. Travis looked over the SUV again, his eyes moving too quickly, already writing a story in his head. Anything in the car I should know about? He asked. Angela's gaze did not leave his camera. Only what you bring to it. The answer made Travis pause, but only for a second. Rain gathered along the brim of his cap and dropped in thin lines onto his shoulders as he studied Angela Brooks beside the dark SUV. She stood with both hands relaxed in front of her, not defensive, not pleading, not performing fear for the benefit of a man who had already decided what kind of woman she was. The highway shoulder smelled of pine needles, wet gravel, and gasoline drifting from the small station across the road. Angela could feel the damp air settling into the collar of her coat, but her mind stayed clear. She had chosen this road because the pattern led here. 8 stops in 4 months. 8 black drivers. 8 reports written with the same clean language, the same convenient discovery, the same officer listed first on scene. On paper, the arrests looked efficient. In the margins, they looked rehearsed. That was why she had left her federal detail 20 miles back and driven the final stretch alone. No escort, no marked vehicle, no visible badge. Just a woman in a charcoal coat, a leather handbag on the passenger seat, and a sealed folder tucked beneath a stack of ordinary travel receipts. To the world, Angela Brooks looked like someone who could be interrupted. That was the point. In Washington, people stepped aside when she entered a room. Field agents lowered their voices. Attorneys measured their words. Reporters waited outside hearing rooms for a single sentence from her office. But out here, under a gray sky on a county highway, none of that existed unless she chose to reveal it. Her power was folded inside her silence, and she kept it there. Travis walked slowly around the SUV, his flashlight beam sliding across the tires, the rear bumper, the spotless trunk seam. He moved like a man who expected the vehicle to confess. Angela watched the reflection of his body camera in the window glass. The red light still blinked, but his chest turned away whenever his hand passed near the rear door. Small movements, small choices, small lies had ruined large lives before. Angela knew the names. Marcus Delaney pulled over after a double shift at the warehouse. Sharon Price stopped on her way to pick up her daughter from cheer practice. Devin Reed, 22 years old, community college student, whose scholarship vanished after one report no one questioned in time. Their files were not statistics to Angela. They were voices trapped in official language. She had read every line at 2 in the morning beneath the yellow lamp in her office, hearing her late father's warning in the quiet between pages. If the system is powerful enough to write a person's future, then the record must be honest enough to deserve that power. Travis returned to the driver's side and tapped the roof twice with his knuckles. "You seem awfully calm." Angela looked at him through the rain. Calm is not guilt. His jaw tightened. "We will see about that." Across the road, behind the gas station window, a young attendant named Maya Ellis stood still with a receipt printer humming beside her, watching the entire stop unfold beneath the glow of the security monitor. Travis Miller had learned early that confidence could pass for truth if he wore it long enough. He walked around Angela's SUV with the patient rhythm of a man performing for his own report, every step measured, every glance rehearsed. Rain clicked softly against the roof, ran down the windows in silver threads, and blurred the flashing lights into streaks of red and blue. He had been on this highway for 9 years, long enough to know where the shoulder dipped, where the radio signal faded, where drivers became nervous before he even asked a question. Around the station, around the courthouse, around county headquarters, people called him productive. They said he had instincts. They said he could smell trouble through a rolled-up window. Travis liked that version of himself. It sounded clean. It sounded official. It left out the way his voice changed when certain drivers handed him their license. It left out the way suspicion came easier when the face in the window was black. It left out the small private certainty that people like Angela were never as polished as they appeared. He shined his badge every morning until it caught the bathroom light, clipped his body camera to his chest, and told himself that order needed men who were not afraid to act. The numbers rewarded him. Arrests, citations, seizures, commendations printed on thick paper. Captain Laura Bennett had praised his work at a county safety meeting 2 months earlier, standing beside a projector screen, while his name appeared in bold above the words highest interdiction rate. The room had clapped. Travis had smiled. No one in that room saw the families behind the statistics, or the jobs lost after charges were filed, or the quiet panic of people trying to explain why something found near them did not belong to them. Angela had seen all of it from the other side of a federal desk. She had seen reports that looked too perfect, searches that moved too quickly, and probable cause written in phrases copied almost word for word from one case to the next. Now she watched him in person, and the paper pattern became a living habit. He paused near the rear passenger door and bent slightly, pretending to examine the weather stripping. His body blocked the camera on his chest from the inside angle of the vehicle. Angela shifted just enough to see his reflection in the wet glass. His left hand dipped out of sight for less than 2 seconds, then returned empty. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just a movement small enough to hide inside a sentence later. Across the road, Maya Ellis leaned closer to the security monitor behind the gas station counter. The camera above pump 3 showed the shoulder clearly, the SUV, the officer, the woman standing in the rain, and the brief moment when Travis's hand disappeared behind the open line of his coat. Maya frowned and reached for her phone, not knowing why her stomach had tightened, only knowing that something about the scene felt wrong. Travis straightened and walked back toward Angela with a look of quiet satisfaction. "I'm going to take a closer look inside," he said. Angela's eyes remained steady. "Then state your reason clearly for the recording." His smile thinned. "You really like procedure." Angela looked at the blinking red light on his chest. "Only when someone else thinks it does not apply to them." Angela did not move when Travis reached for the driver's side door handle. Rain ran down her coat in thin, dark lines, and the red and blue lights from his cruiser washed over her face in slow pulses. She kept her hands visible, fingers relaxed, voice steady. Before you enter the vehicle, I am asking you to state the legal basis for the search, your badge number, and whether your supervisor has been notified. Travis looked back over his shoulder as if she had spoken in a language he found insulting. You ask a lot of questions for somebody standing on the side of my road. Angela glanced at the body camera on his chest. This is a public highway, not your road. A long silence followed, the kind that did not feel empty, but loaded. A pickup truck passed in the far lane, tires hissing over wet asphalt, its driver slowing just enough to look before disappearing into the rain. Travis stepped closer, lowering his voice. Let me explain something to you. Out here, when I give an instruction, people follow it. Angela met his eyes. And when a public officer gives an instruction, it still has to be lawful. The words did not come out loud. They came out clean. That was what angered him. She was not shouting, not shaking, not giving him anything messy to write into a report. She was forcing the moment to remain exact. Travis turned slightly toward his cruiser and spoke into his shoulder radio, reporting a routine roadside investigation with a calmness that sounded almost bored. Angela listened carefully. He did not mention that she had asked for a supervisor. He did not mention that she had questioned the search. He did not mention the gas station camera across the road or the fact that his own body camera had shifted away during his walk around the SUV. Each omission settled into her mind like a numbered exhibit. I am requesting a supervisor at the scene, Angela said once he finished transmitting. Travis gave a short breath through his nose. Request denied. You do not have to grant it to record that I asked. His eyes narrowed. For a second, all the polished certainty seemed to thin, revealing the irritation underneath. He opened the driver's side door and leaned inside just far enough to look, careful with his posture, careful with what the camera on his chest could see. Angela watched the angle of his shoulders in the rain-streaked window. She watched his right hand rest against the door frame while his left hand moved near the center console. Nothing in the car had changed. The bottle of water still sat unopened. The phone still lay face down. The leather handbag remained on the passenger seat. Beneath the ordinary receipts, the sealed folder waited, its federal markings hidden from view. Across the road, Maya Ellis stood behind the gas station counter with the security monitor glowing blue against her face. Her manager was in the stockroom. The coffee machine clicked and steamed beside her, and the printer kept spitting out receipts no one was there to take. Maya lifted her phone and began recording the monitor. Not because she wanted trouble, but because her grandmother had taught her that when something feels wrong, you do not look away. Travis stepped back from the SUV and closed the door with practiced calm. I am going to continue the search, he said. Angela looked at him, then at the gas station camera. Then continue carefully, Officer Miller. Some mistakes do not disappear just because they are written in official language. Travis moved to the passenger side of the SUV with the slow confidence of a man who believed the rain would wash the edges off everything. Angela stood near the rear of the vehicle, where he had told her to wait, the shoulder gravel dark around her shoes and the pine trees beyond the guardrail bending softly in the wind. She did not look away from him. He opened the passenger door, leaned inside, and let his flashlight pass over the leather handbag, the receipts, the unopened pack of mints, the folded road map tucked into the side pocket. Then his body shifted, just slightly. His back blocked the view from his own camera, but not from the station across the road. Maya Ellis saw it on the monitor and stopped breathing for a moment. The screen was grainy, washed in blue and red light, but clear enough to show the pause, the hidden hand, the small movement near the floor mat. Her phone kept recording the monitor while the coffee machine hissed beside her like it was trying to warn the room. Travis straightened, closed the door halfway, then opened it again as if he had just noticed something important. Well, he said, loud enough for the camera now, what do we have here? Angela's face did not change. Rain gathered on her eyelashes, cold and fine. She heard him before she saw what he held, a small clear evidence bag pinched between two gloved fingers. Inside was a pale packet, sealed, neat, too convenient in its cleanliness. Travis turned toward her with satisfaction already written across his mouth. Care to explain this? He asked. Angela looked at the bag, then at him. She did not reach for it. She did not step back. Where exactly are you claiming that came from? Passenger side floorboard. Say the location again for your body camera. His smile weakened. Passenger side floorboard. Angela nodded slowly. And you are stating that it was present in my vehicle before your search began? The question irritated him because it sounded less like fear and more like a deposition. That is what I found. That is not what I asked. The air between them tightened. A car slowed in the far lane, then continued. Travis lifted the bag higher, turning his body fully toward the camera now, trying to rebuild the scene around the object in his hand. Ma'am, at this point you need to stop talking. No, Angela said quietly. At this point you need to preserve everything. His eyes narrowed. You think you can talk your way out of this? She looked past him to the gas station awning, where the small black camera sat in the corner like an unblinking eye. Officer Miller, she said, voice lower than the rain. Do you know how many cameras are watching us right now? For the first time, Travis turned his head toward the station. Behind the glass, Maya stood frozen with her phone in her hand. Travis's expression changed so quickly it might have been missed by anyone who was not trained to watch people choose their next lie. Angela saw it. She also saw the faint glow of headlights cresting the wet road behind his cruiser. Not one vehicle. Two dark federal SUVs rolling toward the shoulder with no sirens, only steady purpose. Travis looked back at Angela, and the evidence bag in his hand suddenly seemed much heavier than it had a moment before. The headlights came closer through the rain, bright and steady, cutting through the gray afternoon until their beams stretched across the shoulder and touched the evidence bag in Travis Miller's hand. For a few seconds, no one moved. The highway kept breathing around them, tires whispering over wet pavement, pine branches shivering beyond the guardrail, radio static clicking softly from Travis's cruiser like a nervous pulse. Angela Brooks stood in the rain with her coat darkened at the shoulders and her hands still visible, not because she was powerless, but because she understood the value of a clean record. Every movement mattered now. Every word had weight. Travis looked from the approaching vehicles to Angela, then to the gas station across the road, where Maya Ellis stood behind the glass with her phone still raised toward the security monitor. He tried to recover the tone that had carried him through so many stops, that polished official calm that made uncertainty sound like command. Ma'am, you need to focus on me, he said. Angela did not look away from the road. I have been focused on you since the moment you stopped me. Something in the answer landed quietly and stayed there. Travis lowered the evidence bag by an inch, then seemed to realize he had done it and lifted it again. This is a lawful roadside investigation. Then it will survive review, Angela said. The words were not sharp. They were worse than sharp. They were certain. In the space between them, Angela thought of the 8 folders hidden beneath the receipts in her SUV, each one carrying a name that had been made to sound smaller inside official language. Marcus Delaney, whose daughter stopped asking when he would come home because grown-ups kept changing the answer. Sharon Price, who lost her nursing position after an arrest that never should have existed. Devin Reed, who sold his textbooks to pay for a lawyer and never returned to campus. Others too. People who had stood on shoulders like this one, under lights like these, listening to a report being born before the truth had a chance to speak. Angela had read their statements at night until the city outside her office went quiet. She had seen how fear entered a sentence. She had seen how dignity was erased by passive voice. Item was located. Subject appeared nervous. Officer observed behavior consistent with concealment. Clean words. Dirty consequences. That was why she had insisted on driving alone. Not because she wanted a dramatic moment, but because patterns only revealed themselves when the powerful believed no one powerful was present. A gust of wind pushed rain across the shoulder in a silver sheet. Angela blinked once and let it pass. Across the road, Maya pressed save on the first recording and started another, her hands trembling just enough to blur the phone screen. She did not know the woman's name. She did not know the officer's history. She only knew what she had seen, and for once, she was not going to let the video disappear into doubt. The 2 dark SUVs slowed behind Travis's cruiser and stopped in perfect alignment. Their doors remained closed for one suspended breath. Travis's eyes narrowed. Did you call someone? Angela looked at him then, calm as stone under rain. No, Officer Miller. They were already listening. The first SUV door opened. The first door opened with a heavy, controlled sound, and Special Agent Marcus Hill stepped out into the rain wearing a dark federal jacket with no flashy markings. Only the quiet posture of someone who did not need the highway to understand his authority. Two more agents exited behind him, followed by Captain Laura Bennett from the county department, her face pale under the gray sky. Travis Miller looked at her first, searching for protection in the familiar chain of command, but she did not move toward him. She stood beside Marcus, eyes fixed on the evidence bag in his hand. The red and blue lights from the cruiser swept over all of them, over the wet asphalt, over Angela's calm face, over the small gas station across the road where Maya Ellis had finally stepped outside beneath the awning, phone held close to her chest. Marcus walked forward slowly, stopping a few feet from Angela. His voice was clear enough to carry over the rain. "Director Brooks, are you ready to proceed?" The title struck the shoulder harder than thunder. Travis blinked once, then again, as if the words had reached him in the wrong order. Angela did not answer immediately. She looked at the evidence bag, then at Travis, then at the body camera on his chest. "Yes, Agent Hill," she said. "Secure the scene and preserve every recording." Travis's mouth opened slightly. "Director?" Captain Bennett swallowed, unable to meet his eyes. Marcus turned to Travis with professional calm. "Officer Miller, you are speaking with the Director of the Drug Enforcement Administration. This traffic stop has been part of a federal integrity review involving prior roadside cases connected to this corridor." The bag in Travis's hand seemed to shrink and grow at the same time, becoming too small to explain and too large to hide. He looked back at Angela, and for the first time since the stop began, he saw someone he should have recognized as powerful. That was exactly what made the moment so heavy. Angela stepped closer, her shoes pressing into the wet gravel, her voice steady. "You did not need to know my title to follow the law." No one spoke. Even the rain seemed to soften around the sentence. Marcus signaled one agent toward the SUV and another toward the cruiser. "Body camera, dash camera, radio logs, vehicle location data, and the object in his hand will all be logged separately," he said. "No one touches anything without documentation." Across the road, Maya hurried over with cautious steps, holding her phone like it was made of glass. "I have video from the station monitor," she said, voice nervous but firm. "It shows the passenger's side." Travis turned toward her, then stopped himself from speaking. There was no safe sentence left for him to say. Captain Bennett finally exhaled. The woman who had praised his record now looked at the bag, then at the black woman standing in the rain, and understood that the numbers she had defended were about to become names. Angela reached into the SUV only after an agent opened the door for her and retrieved the sealed folder beneath the receipts. She handed it to Marcus. 8 cases, she said. "Start with the oldest." Marcus took the file with both hands. Travis stared at the folder as if the road itself had opened beneath him. Angela looked once more at the gas station camera, still aimed at the shoulder, still watching. "The review begins here," she said. Marcus Hill opened a portable evidence case on the hood of the lead federal SUV, and suddenly the shoulder of the highway became quieter than any courtroom Angela Brooks had ever entered. Rain tapped against the black case, against the cruiser roof, against the sealed folder now protected beneath a clear cover. Every item received a number. Every camera received a name. Every witness received a place in the record. Travis Miller stood a few feet away, no longer holding the small bag. One of the agents had taken it from him with gloved hands, placed it into a separate evidence sleeve, and set it where everyone could see it. He looked toward Captain Bennett as if waiting for her to explain this back into something familiar, something he could survive by calling it confusion. She did not. Her arms were folded tightly, her eyes lowered to the wet asphalt, and the confidence she had once given him was draining away with the rainwater along the shoulder. "I did not know who she was," Travis finally said. His voice was lower now, stripped of the command he had used at the window. Angela turned toward him. She did not look pleased. She did not look victorious. She looked tired, and that somehow made the moment heavier. "That is not a defense," she said. "That is the evidence." Travis blinked, wounded more by the truth than by the accusation. Angela stepped closer, stopping at a respectful distance. The red and blue lights still moved over her coat, but they no longer controlled the scene. If the law only works when you recognize someone important, then it is not law. It is favoritism with a badge. No one interrupted her. Even the passing cars slowed and moved on without sound seeming to reach them. Maya Ellis stood near the gas station sign with an agent beside her, transferring the security footage from the station system. Her hands had stopped trembling, but her face remained pale. She had not expected to become part of something this large. She had only refused to look away. Marcus read from a checklist in a calm voice. Body camera footage. Dash camera footage. Gas station exterior footage. Witness phone recording. Radio transmission log. Vehicle location history. Prior incident reports. Each phrase clicked into place like a lock closing. Angela watched Travis hear his own world being collected around him. For years, he had trusted reports to move in one direction, from his hand to someone else's belief. Now the record moved back toward him. Captain Bennett finally spoke, her voice rough. Officer Miller, you are relieved from roadway duty pending administrative review. Travis looked at her, stunned. Captain, do not make this worse, she said quietly. That sentence did what anger could not. It emptied him. The rain softened into mist. Angela walked to her SUV as an agent held an umbrella above the open door. She reached inside and took out the folder with the 8 names. For a second, her fingers rested on the cover. She thought of Marcus Delaney's daughter, Sharon Price's nursing badge, Devin Reed's unopened textbooks. Then she handed the folder to Marcus. Notify the United States Attorney's Office, she said, and reopen every case connected to this pattern. Marcus nodded. Yes, Director. Travis stood under the flashing lights, his reflection broken across the wet pavement. Angela looked at him one last time, not with hate, not with pity, but with the kind of clarity that leaves no room to hide. The people you thought no one would believe, she said, will be heard now. By the time Angela Brooks reached the federal field office that night, the rain had turned the city windows into long silver lines, and the highway felt like a place from another life. Her coat was dry now, but the memory of the shoulder remained in the fabric somehow, in the faint scent of wet asphalt, pine trees, and flashing lights. The conference room on the 23rd floor was quiet except for the soft hum of the air system and the muted buzz of phones vibrating on the table. Marcus Hill stood near the wall screen with the transferred gas station footage paused on a single frame. Travis Miller beside the passenger door, his body angled away from his own camera, his hand hidden for one small moment that had taken 8 old cases and opened them like a locked drawer. On the table lay the evidence case from the highway, the sealed folder Angela had carried under the receipts, the radio log printouts, the dash camera inventory, and 8 manila files arranged in a careful row. Each file had a name, not a statistic, not an incident number, a name. Angela stood at the head of the table without sitting. Her eyes moved first to Marcus Delaney's file, where a photograph of a little girl in a purple backpack had been clipped to a statement from his sister. Then to Sharon Price's file, where a nursing identification card copy sat behind a court notice. Then to Devin Reed's file, where a college schedule, creased and worn, marked the week his life had changed. For months, those names had been buried under language that sounded official enough to silence doubt. Tonight, the language no longer had the final word. Captain Laura Bennett sat on the far side of the table, hands folded, face drawn with the kind of regret that arrives too late to be useful, but not too late to matter. I signed off on some of these summaries, she said quietly. No one rushed to comfort her. Angela looked at her, not harshly, but fully. Then you will help correct the record. Laura nodded once, and for the first time that day, she looked less like someone protecting a department and more like someone ready to face one. Marcus pressed play. The footage rolled without sound at first, grainy but clear. The SUV, the rain, the officer's body shifting, the pause. The moment Maya Ellis had refused to ignore. Angela watched until the frame ended, then looked down at the files again. Justice, she knew, was not a lightning strike. It was slower than that. It was paperwork reopened, calls made to families, charges reviewed, apologies written only after truth had been proven, and power forced to answer incomplete sentences. Near midnight, the first notification came from the United States Attorney's Office. Emergency review approved. Evidence accepted. Prior cases to be reopened. Marcus read it aloud, then fell silent. Angela finally sat down. Her shoulders ached. Her hands were cold. But her voice, when she spoke, was steady. Start with the families. Outside the glass, The city shimmered under the last of the rain. Inside, one by one, the forgotten files were opened, and the room listened as the names came back to life.